What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to be talking about SoFi. I do got another advocate of SoFi with me, and his name is Riley. So a lot of big things coming for SoFi down the pipeline, especially with their upcoming earnings. So we're going to be talking today more so reasons to love SoFi and why we're passionate about SoFi. So I appreciate you popping over, Riley. I'll let you do an intro and let everyone know kind of what you're all about.
Hi guys, my name is Riley. All I'm famous for is just my Twitter handle, Focusnotice. I just recently got retweeted by Anthony Noto, who we're going to be talking about in just a moment, but not too much. Back to you.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm going to have your contact info in the description below. So pop over and give him a follow on Twitter. Obviously, he's a very big part of the SoFi community. And clearly, as you are going to find out, very knowledgeable when it comes down to SoFi. So I have used a lot of your content in the past on some SoFi videos, very knowledgeable, and you are good at finding kind of the niche amount of things. And a good specialty is why SoFi is going to become one of the biggest businesses out there. So just kicking it off again, this is a little bit more freestyle. So what is your passion? Why do you like SoFi?
I like SoFi because they have a mission statement, and that's helping their members get their money right. I think all of us back in 2021 really didn't see Robinhood as being the I feel like their mission statement was to steal from the rich and give to the poor, and then they started backstabbing us and doing the exact opposite. And so I think that really hurt them. And even though they're clearly the best platform for investing, just the UI is amazing. They have all the options. They have just everything under the sun. People still don't want to associate with them. And SoFi is the exact opposite. And I think them being mission driven is going to make them, in the long run, way better than all their competitors.
Exactly. And so obviously, if you have watched a lot of my videos in the past, more recently, my last one, I did refer to a lot of things that you brought up. So they are having possibly within their app kind of hints in the coding, at least, extended hours, kind of incorporating Twitter feed, which I think is a very big thing. And that's what a lot of big brokers are moving towards in general. And also, if I remember correctly, it was also margin, or there was one other thing, but
Options, yeah.
options activity.
That's
Yes,
the big one.
exactly. Yeah. So definitely moving in the right direction. I completely agree with you. I think a lot of people are looking for a better alternate source other than Robinhood. Just not many options out there, to be honest. So SoFi, I think, is doing the right thing, filling that right niche. So some things about, let's say, for their upcoming earnings. What is your expectations for this upcoming earnings?
I have no idea. I've been proven wrong so many times with this company, but they're doing everything right. Like Anthony Noto said, he was going to give 1% APY as soon as he got the bank charter, and he did that. And not only did he do that, as soon as they hiked the rates up, he literally just gave all of that extra dough that SoFi would be making and just gave it right back to the consumers, which is exactly how Jeff Bezos treated Amazon in the early 2000s. They're just completely customer focused. And I think that's important. And I don't know, he's ringing all the right bells for me. So I really don't care what it's going to be like in the short term. I'm just going to hold my position, put my head in the sand while all of this nonsense goes on in the market, and try to hopefully make a simple return in the future.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think even looking back, I don't think anyone anticipated SoFi to go down as much as it has, hands down. Like that seems a little bit absurd. Even myself, like I bought big time at $8.10. I would have sworn that would have been the bottom. Then it just like broke resistance. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
I
whatever.
had a friend. I had a friend just call me today, and I convinced him to buy SoFi at like $17, and he put like 40 grand in, and he's like, I can't do this no more. And he's like, if it goes lower than 5, I'm gonna have to exit. And I'm like, oh, I just feel so bad.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna be watching this too. So
On a
he's
side note, this is a good transition point. We're not financial advisors, so do your own due
sure.
diligence. But yeah, no, I have a feeling that people are going to be contemplating selling at the bottom, and that's a very common retail mistake. That yes, it's very hard to catch the bottom, but being kind of emotionally driven in these kind of and selling based on that is it's a difficult, and it's wrong to do so, in my own opinion. At least I've been investing for quite a while, and I've made a lot of those mistakes where you just get so tired of a stock going down, so you sell, and then literally most likely this is how it always works, is one day or even within the 1 week then it starts to reverse. So
how do you do it in particular? Because your whole channel is just stocks 24/7. I would be so tempted to touch my portfolio every day with how much like you just talk about it.
generally speaking, like me as an investor, I usually never really watched it so much. I would do my due diligence, why I liked a company, and kind of where I expected it by a certain time frame at least, and then I would take a step back and not necessarily watch it. But now, unfortunately, me doing YouTube, I kind of have to watch it on a daily basis,
Oh no.
which has been good. I've been able to buy the dips a little bit more frequently, but yeah, no, I could see how a lot of retail investors, if you do have a large sum, like let's say you put 40,000 in at 17, you're going to be watching it like a hawk pretty much. So I can see how retail investors get kind of deterred in investing sometimes. But I think one of the things I still have always said, and I've covered quite a few companies, over the counter, like mega cap companies. One thing that I've always said is, and I'll probably continue to say, is every company looks up to their CEO. And Anthony Noto is one that goes down for the record. Like, he has bought so many times. And this isn't just like a small over the counter stock. This is like a multi-billion-dollar company. I think it has a roughly about 5 or 6 billion market cap right now. And he's buying big sums of money. This is one thing I personally really like about SoFi. Has a good value, has a lot of potential in the future, and has a good CEO that backs it. So what's your thoughts on Anthony?
I think he's different, right? So like he's leading a technology company, yet he doesn't have any like technological background. I mean, he's a really good analyst from what we know. In the early 2000s, he at Goldman Sachs, he scored like 7 years in a row as the top analyst, and that's why his career probably shot off. And because he started leading IPOs for Goldman Sachs after he got back from the NFL. Not that he played; he was working as the COO over there at the NFL. But yeah, I read a recent article about him and the Twitter IPO. So back when Goldman Sachs was trying to land the LinkedIn IPO, they lost it to Morgan Stanley, and they were having a real trouble like gaining tech stocks because tech companies didn't want to have to deal with all the shenanigans all these big banks were putting in front of them when they were trying to go IPO. So for instance, like back in the old days, when banks would try to introduce new stocks into the IPO, they would take a big cut of the company or like a 7% write-off when it goes IPO. And so for Facebook, when it was like a tech stock going on to the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, I'm not sure. Everybody was assuming that Morgan Stanley was going to get like a 7% cut of Facebook, but Facebook negotiated it down and had a little bidding war. And now it's like down to 1%. And ever since then, like Silicon Valley companies that go IPO usually go around 1% to 2%. And it's a big catalyst that's changed. But before then, when the margins were higher, these banks would just smell blood in the water and go after these tech stocks and just sell them buckets of gold, saying like, hey, we'll do anything for you. And I read an article about Anthony Noto, how he was part of that shift. Like everybody was changing to the different way of like lower margin and really caring about like the companies. So there's a lot of really good praises about Anthony Noto about like a decade ago, about how he felt like people in the Silicon Valley actually felt like he cared. And you can hear that like in his podcast now, Who Dares Wins. He talks to people that he used to communicate with like a decade ago in Silicon Valley, and they all love him. Like he's just a loved guy. And I think that's where he comes as a leader. I don't know if he's going to have a big part operationally when it comes to moving Technisys and Galileo onto their new core here in the next 2 or 3 years. But I think he's going to be an operational leader, like overall, like he's going to be a delegator, which I think is cool. But then again, I don't know anything. I try. but I don't know what it's like to like run $1 billion company.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's hard for the first couple of years because it's more of a trial. Every CEO like in theory has a good plan, but whether they actually do it, and so far he's living up to it. So that's,
Mm.
I think the next couple of years I agree with you, it's going to be a pivotal point, but we have nothing really to kind of discourage us from doing that. So to be honest, I have done a live stream with King of Conviction as well from Twitter. He did teach me a lot about the two acquisitions. So, like you mentioned, so since it's transitioning over the next couple of years, what's your takeaway on that? Do you think that SoFi did a pretty penny, like as far as a good acquisitions? Because I have been seeing some stuff on, for instance, like stock twits and things like that, saying that they paid too much and that they aren't going to realize any money or any direct benefit until, for instance, like 2025 or onwards. So what's your take on that?
I heard a quote recently. I have no idea where it's from. I liked it on Twitter, but I don't know. I've liked so many things, but it was pessimists sound really, really smart, but optimists make money. And if you look back 10 years ago or let's say 20 years ago, and you just bought Google stock and you just didn't listen to any of the news, what was happening, didn't do anything, and you just put your head in the sand and you held Google stock, you would have been really well off. Then again, I don't know. Like I really don't even focus on all the stock acquisitions, and I just try to like avoid all the negative news. I have my own criteria of what makes or break a company, and it's usually about the way that they run and how like they're perceived. Because like anybody could see Elon Musk was just like a brilliant, bright, charismatic leader that was willing to just like not give up like his stances like 10 years ago. If you were really like focused on him, you would have seen him. Like he was a diamond in the rough. And that's what I try to look for. I think that's Anthony Noto. Or I don't know. There's a lot of people like that now, but I don't know. I think Anthony Noto has a good company, and I think he knows how to run it like AWS, Amazon Web Services in the early 2000s, and make it grow. Like Galileo is growing, Technisys is growing, and the way that they're going to put everything on one core and sell all these different products and gather all the data from all those products at the same time, and then use that data to make better financial service products for their users, I think is genius. Because of that, we don't know SoFi's market cap because it could change. Like Apple, Apple a couple of years ago bought Beats by Dre. And everybody was like, Apple, why'd you do that? That is the weirdest thing ever. But then after years of silence, they released AirPods Pro, and it was just amazingly designed. It just like eliminated so many like low NPS problems that people have with their headphones, cords, batteries. They just made it very simple and elegant. And now they make so much money off of that. And so everybody thought, Apple, their market cap is this, but then they just release something else. I think that's SoFi in the future because they'll be like flexible enough to be able to venture out into different directions.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant actually, because I think that encompasses exactly the mentality that a lot of investors have, is just too short term. Even a lot of big companies, like you even mentioned it, I think it takes like several years. You don't know what their actual game plan is with that. Like we both know these two acquisitions for SoFi will bring a lot of customers, but there's many thousands of different options that it could do so. So I think it's just, you have to be a little bit more optimistic. I really like that quote that you actually said though. That's and sometimes I get kind of hit for being too optimistic about a lot of these stocks, but still, whatever. Like it's going to be me making the money in the long run. So
that's right.
So we did touch on a lot of different things. So what is your final takeaway? Like if you were to let SoFi investors know one thing, what would it be?
So Anthony Noto brings up, so like early on in the early 2000s, well, actually before the 2000s, back in 1999, when he started in Goldman Sachs and he was becoming an analyst, he made a lot of bad calls and the dot-com crash, like toys.com, a few others, but all I could think of is toys.com. But he was just completely roasted in the media shortly after. And everybody thought he was just like, there were a couple nicknames like Anthony Don't Know and Anthony Nodo and all these like clever names in the media, and they started calling him that in Goldman Sachs, from what I've read. But then I remember in one of his podcasts, he was reading like in the 2004 or 2006 era, he started reading a little bit more, and he read Moneyball, and that switched his entire frame of thinking. And now when he was becoming an analyst, he didn't focus on all the numbers and all the nitty gritty stuff. He focused on critical success factors. And if you could find one detail about a company that just makes it win like nonstop, I think that's the most important thing, and just like focus on that and don't think about anything else. Like if you would have just focused on Elon Musk making well, I don't know if Elon Musk's a good example because he's been like bankrupt until like just 2021. But I think SoFi is like focusing on the real problem, like helping people actually get their money right. Who's giving 1% APY? Nobody. And I think just that focused on giving back to customers, I think in the future is going to really compound the company. But that's my naive take.
Yeah, well, I guess with the Fed meeting tomorrow, we're going to find out, seeing, I guess, what SoFi does with all of that, and also their upcoming earnings, because this is going to be the first earnings that is incorporating them as a chartered bank. So win-win. Riley, I appreciate you being on. Link to Riley's Twitter is going to be in the description below, so pop over there, follow him. As you can already tell, he is very knowledgeable, so maybe we'll kind of make this more of a regular thing, and obviously spread your knowledge of SoFi and educate a lot of SoFi investors. I think that's a key thing that I really do like, and make smarter investors at the end. So don't forget to hit that thumbs up, subscribe, everyone. I appreciate that. And also pop over to my Discord, link in the description below. It's a free chat, a lot of good people. And Riley, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, guys, let's all have a good night and make a lot of money on SoFi.